Welcome. We are absolutely swimming in information these days, right? But making sense of it all, now that's a real superpower. And that power all starts with one thing: understanding data collection. It's the foundation for everything else, the first step on your data journey. So let's get into it.
All right, here's the plan for today. We're going to start with the basics of data collection. Then I'll show you two key questions that make everything simpler. After that, we'll uncover where to find data. And finally, we'll talk about your next step.
So, have you ever really thought about it? We throw around terms like big data all the time, but where does it all begin? It can feel like it just appears out of thin air, but it's not magic, not at all. It's a process, and we're about to break it down.
Okay, so here's where it all begins. Before you can build anything, no cool visualizations, no mind-blowing insights, you have to gather your materials, right? Well, in the world of data, that's data collection. And honestly, it is the most important first step you can take.
So what is it exactly? Put simply, data collection is the process of gathering up information. The key word here is process. It's not just, randomly surfing the web. It's a deliberate, organized way to get the data you need. And that data can come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes.
All right, so we know what data collection is. But once you have a big pile of data, what do you do with it? How do you even start to make sense of it all? Turns out it's way easier than you might think. All you need are two simple questions. That's it.
Okay, question number one, and it's a big one. You just have to ask yourself, is this data neat and tidy, or is it kind of all over the place? Is it organized? This single question basically cuts the entire world of data right down the middle.
And those two sides of the data universe, they're called structured and unstructured. Structured data is exactly what it sounds like. It's neat, it's organized, it fits perfectly into rows and columns, just like a spreadsheet. But unstructured data, well, that's the messy stuff. Think of it like a shoebox full of old photos, letters, and emails. The info is absolutely in there, but it's not in any kind of fixed format.
Let's make this real with some examples. Structured data is your classic stuff, right? Excel sheets, SQL databases, sales records, very orderly. Unstructured data, on the other hand, is things like emails, social media posts, videos, even just plain text documents. And honestly, that unstructured stuff is a goldmine. Figuring out how to sift through it all, that's one of the biggest challenges and opportunities in data right now. Okay, ready for the second key question? This one is super straightforward. You just look at the data and ask, is this a number or is it a description?
And that simple question gets us to our next big distinction: quantitative versus qualitative data. Quantitative is all about, quantity. It's numbers, things you can measure, count, and do math with. Qualitative, on the other hand, is about quality. It's descriptive. It's the non-numerical stuff that gives you the context, the story, the why behind the numbers.
So for example, your age, your income, the temperature outside, those are all numbers, right? So they're quantitative. But a customer review, a transcript from an interview, even the color of something, that's all descriptive. That's qualitative data. And you really need both, because they each tell a totally different but equally important part of the story.
Okay, so we've got our two big questions. We know how to look at any piece of data and classify it. Now, where do we actually go to find it? This is the fun part. Think of what's coming next is your own personal treasure map for finding data.
And on this map, there are basically three main spots where the treasure is buried. First, you've got databases. Then you have plain old files. And third, you have something called APIs. Let's dig into each one.
Let's start with databases. These are the real heavy lifters of the data world. They're these massive, organized libraries built to handle huge amounts of information efficiently. Seriously, pretty much every major company you can think of relies on them to keep things running.
And here's where it all clicks together. Remember structured versus unstructured? Well, check this out. SQL databases, they're built specifically for that neat, organized, structured data. But NoSQL databases, they're designed for the opposite, to handle all that flexible, sometimes messy, unstructured stuff. See? Knowing what kind of data you're dealing with tells you exactly which kind of database to look in.
But it's not just about big databases, right? A ton of data lives in simple files. We've all used Excel or seen a CSV file that's perfect for sharing structured, tabular data. Then you have things like JSON files, which are super common for web stuff. And then there are APIs, which are really cool. Think of an API as a direct line to a live data feed. It's how an app on your phone can get a real-time weather update or the latest stock prices.
Wow,
Okay, we've actually covered a ton of ground here. We know what data collection is, we've got our 2 key questions to sort any data, and we know the main places to look for it. So, for this last part, let's connect all the dots.
And really, this is the main point of everything we've talked about. This is the whole shebang. Knowing the type of data you need is what tells you where to go looking for it. It's that simple. You need 5 years of sales data, that's structured and quantitative, so you're probably heading to an SQL database. You want to know how customers feel about your product, that's unstructured and qualitative, so you're going to be digging through emails and social media. The what literally gives you a map to the where.
And that's it. That's the first, most fundamental step on any data journey. You're not just looking at information anymore. Now you have the basic toolkit to start asking your own questions and finding your own answers. So, I guess the only thing left to ask is, what questions are you going to ask the data?